love you.
I love you too.
I said they love you.
Oh.
But I love you too.
Welcome back to Bravo Breaking News. Last night, we had the finale of all finales on Vanderpump Rules, and I am still reeling.
So this season will go down in history as like a defining moment in reality TV. I hope it is studied for decades to come across universities in terms of like psych courses, because the human behavior that we've witnessed over the last couple of months is truly something to behold.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So grab a pumptini and get ready, because we are going to get into it all. But before we do, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any Bravo breaking news.
Okay, so to set the scene, we kind of open with this flashback on the fateful night of Watch What Happens Live with Raquel and Sheena. And during that episode, Andy asks them, who is the hotter Tom? And they both, to Sheena's surprise, respond, Sandoval. Now, Sheena later said that she said Sandoval because she thought Raquel would say Schwartz, and she didn't want, anyone to feel bad. So this kind of put everything into motion. And on that same day, we get Tom in a confessional explaining that evening he was doing a show, his phone falls out of his pocket, someone hands it to Ariana for safekeeping, and for whatever reason, Ariana had the instinct to look through his phone, and what did she find? A FaceTime recording of him and Raquel from the day before.
I mean, mind blown. We knew that this happened, but just to hear it, hear Ariana tell us about it is insane. And, it was just a woman's intuition. She knew that she had to look at that phone. And, she found it. She found a FaceTime, which we didn't get details as to what was on the FaceTime. I do believe it was sexual in nature, which is what, was the light bulb moment for her. But, Tom's excuse was, I would have normally deleted it, but I had a really busy day. Like, what a stupid asshole. So Ariana immediately calls Raquel and is like, if you are my friend, you will tell me what the hell happened. And basically, she tells her that it happened, but not much else. Like Raquel, doesn't really divulge details. Raquel then tells Sheena while they're at Watch What Happens Live in New York. And, Sheena, of course, we know goes ballistic. And Tom is basically like, I know what I did was messed up. I don't think we were happy. And then we get this really, really probably the most significant confessional moment in Vanderpump Rules history, at least of this season.
She basically said, I learned that day that there are evil, evil people in this world, and sometimes they are the people closest to you. And that just chills, and my heart broke for her, because these are two people who she put so much trust in them, and she had been so loyal to them, and they completely betrayed her. And to have to process that is just, it's talk about trust issues. Tom brings it up later in the episode. One of the reasons why he didn't want to tell Ariana is because she has trust issues. And Lisa was like, well, how you think she's going to be now?
Totally. So we jump right into Tom and Ariana's house and that sit down that we've seen in the trailer. And oh my God, what were your thoughts?
First, I was actually surprised that this was kind of the real opening scene, because in my head, I assumed that we were going to be building up to that. I kind of thought that we were going to get Ariana and the girls together first, see Tom and Tom together, and then we would get the sit down with Tom and Ariana, but we got it right off the bat. And I was almost not ready. She is basically just tolerating his presence, sort of. We get the iconic line of, him asking if she wants anything before they sit down to film this. And she's like, for you to die. And he is, he's just going in with excuse after excuse. He's trying to explain why he did what he did. And she's just not having it. And good for her, because she shouldn't be having any of this.
And we learn, up until this point, he hasn't even said sorry to her. Even though an apology probably doesn't mean much or isn't worth much at this point, he hasn't even apologized to her, and she calls him out on it. She calls him out on a lot of stuff. I love when she basically said, like, you have a little money, a little bar, and a little band, and this, girl is going to become enamored with you, and you're just ready to throw it all away because somebody is giving you that attention. Like, that is Sandoval to a T.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's 100% right. And, then she goes on to say that Raquel has no identity of her own. She puts her identity around whoever she's with in that moment, which I do think is accurate. And she's like, Tom's like, I don't know how it happened. It just happened. Like, Raquel and I were really good friends, and that just sets Ariana off. And, she's like, first of all, she's like, let me be angry, because his excuse for not saying sorry is because every time he tries to say sorry, she gets mad. And she's like, let me be mad. Let me be angry. Let me yell and scream. Like, I deserve that. And so she finally lets loose and is like, I don't give a about Raquel. And then he starts yelling at her, which is like, dude, how dare you have the gall to like stand there and yell at Ariana when you are the one who did this? Like, this is your fault. And I just like, I don't know. We saw so many signs of Sandoval that like we knew were there, but just like seeing it in this situation was just, it's gross.
It's disgusting. And he keeps saying like, I lost my mojo and this gave me my mojo back. Like, who the says mojo, Tom? Like, shut up and stop making excuses. He keeps saying time and time again that he tried to break up with her. We saw on Watch What Happens Live that she denies that. And so, Tom, like, it's just excuse after excuse. He is not taking accountability for it. He's almost showing zero emotion in this scene. And it's really, really tough to watch because you can tell Ariana is broken. And, she just, wants him to like be remorseful, yet there is zero remorse.
Yeah. And one thing that I thought was really interesting is she was like, if you tried to break up with me, then why did you come and sleep in my bed that night? Like, if you really meant it, then do it. Like, be a man and do it. So then we go to, Ariana is basically saying that she regrets being with him. She regrets ever standing up for him, ever being on his side. And she's like, you are nothing. And I was like, oh, girl, that was good. That was real good. The whisper. And, once again, Tom's like, I never thought that this would happen. And Tom, this is not something that happened to you. Okay. This was not something that was unavoidable. You did this. Your actions led you here. And he just can't seem to get that through his head.
I know. And Ariana says, like, I was in this. I was your ride or die. I would have followed you anywhere. I would have changed anything about me that you didn't like in order to make this work. And that was so, so, so sad. It was just really rough to watch this scene all together. And one thing that you pointed out, which we did see in the trailer, Tom has a black eye here, and that was not mentioned whatsoever. Are we thinking that Ariana punched him? Because it is not being brought up. Like, maybe it will be brought up at the reunion, but what happened?
Yeah, I don't know, but you can definitely see that he has something going on right here. I think there was an allegation at one point in all this, amidst all this madness, that like Ariana did punch him, but I don't know. They never talked about it. And it's just like, I hope they get to the bottom of it at the reunion. So now we go over to Schwartz's apartment, and, Tom is basically all the emotion that he should have been showing to Ariana, he saved that for Schwartz, because he just walks in and breaks down, with his cool lightning bolt earring dangling. And he's just apologizing to Schwartz. And, Schwartz is like, man, like, you had a plan, you just didn't put it into motion. And, referring to the idea that Sandoval kept telling Schwartz, like, I have a plan, like, I'm going to break up with Ariana, and like, we're going to do this the right way. And Schwartz knew that. And like, Sandoval just never followed through with it. But it's just like so messy, and it doesn't bode well for Schwartz that he kind of knew this stuff. And we can get into later, like, Katie presses him on what he did and did not know. But Tom is more apologetic to Schwartz than he definitely was to Ariana.
Yeah, this scene definitely proved that they care more about their business and their reputation than the feelings of the people around them. Because, they're talking about the Yelp score. And we see that Schwartz is actually the one that told Sandoval to post the apology. We all thought it was Greg that urged Sandoval to post this, his first apology on Instagram, which was to everyone but Ariana, to the staff, to everybody that works for them at Schwartz and Sandy's, but it was actually Schwartz, I guess. And that seems to be their number one priority. And, Sandoval is again throwing out more and more excuses. And he says point blank, I got this vibe that Ariana just didn't want to know. Like, what the fuck, Sandoval? Are you for real?
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone's going to put off a vibe of like, hey, you're cheating? Let's talk about it, So I don't know. That was like one of the dumbest things he said. And then the second dumbest thing was when he's talking about how, he would leave to go somewhere. If Ariana really wanted to know what he was up to, she could have followed him. Like, what? What is this sick idea of a relationship to you? Like, what about the trust? She trusted you and you broke that. You shouldn't have to follow your partner to make sure that they're like not doing anything shady.
That was probably the most insane line of the episode. Like, cue Katie, what?
Yeah, and Schwartz is, trying to say like, dude, you had ample opportunity to tell her. Like, he's like, I'm not going to kick you when you're down, but like he is giving him, a little bit of truth, I think, or a little bit of tough love. Not enough, but a teeny tiny dose. And but I think Schwartz is also worried about himself. He put a lot of money into this bar and he's like, basically, just because I'm your friend, now I'm canceled. And Sandoval's solution was, we'll just stay off social media.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for them. While Sandoval is crying on Schwartz's shoulder, we have the girls arriving at Ariana's to rally around her. We have Sheena and Katie putting aside their differences, coming over, and basically Ariana's telling them exactly what happened. And she reveals that, so Raquel told her that her and Tom kissed shortly after guys' night. But Tom has a different story and actually shares that they, in their car, outside of the house, and then he had to go and knock on the door because he was locked out and Ariana had to let him in. Like, I felt a pit in my stomach, as I'm sure Ariana did when she found out that news, because that was right after her dog Charlotte died. She was in a very, very tough mental state. And Sandoval just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. And then we get Sheena, telling her side of the story as to what went down in New York. And she's like, when I found out, like Raquel basically was very nonchalant about it. She was like, Tom and I have been having an affair for the last 7 months and Ariana just found out. And Sheena was like, I had so much rage in me. I just pushed her and was like, get the hell away from me. And, Raquel says Sheena punched her. Sheena says that didn't happen. I don't know where the truth lies, but whatever. It doesn't even matter at this point. But we also get a really interesting tidbit from Katie about BravoCon, because they start talking about when did Schwartz know. And Katie reveals that when Raquel wore the Tom Tom hoodie at BravoCon, Katie was kind of, giving him a hard time. And Schwartz was basically like, oh, it's not for me, trust me. And so at the time, it kind of struck her as a little bit odd, but she didn't think much of it. And now she's putting the pieces together. And so she's like, okay, so Schwartz knew back in October. Like, we're now in March. That's a long time to know. And then we get the, breaking of the penis flute, which was very symbolic and I hope cathartic.
Yeah, I know. I almost wish it would happen to his real penis, but I'll take the flint. And then, of course, James proves yet again that he is the number one guy in the group because he has the girls arrive to his apartment. They're talking about what went down. And one thing that caught my attention about this scene was the rumor about Billy Lee. So I'm sure that you have heard about this. Of course, Billy Lee was kind of a former, I would say, friend of on the show several seasons back. And there are rumors that her and Sandoval have hooked up. I don't know about you, but after all of this, I most definitely believe them. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, at this point, where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, I would not put it past Tom that happened. So, and Lala's like, let's open up that cold case. And I'm like, yes, Detective Lala, please get in there and figure this shit out because we want to know. I was surprised that James just flat out called Raquel and that Raquel answered. Like, did she know that, like, was this planned? Was this a planned production moment? Because it felt very spur of the moment to me, but maybe I'm just naive. And, James asks if they're an item. Raquel says no. And James just kind of lays into her and he's like, you just fucked yourself. Like, you lost all the friends you had in LA. Like, for what? For this 40-year-old cock? Like, of course, leave it to James. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on that phone call?
I mean, it's like Raquel is so blasé about it. She's basically like kind of giving off the vibe, oh, it is what it is, like whatever. And we continue to get that vibe when Sandoval shows up to Raquel's house. Like this scene, I feel like every scene we talk about, I'm like, this scene was the most cringe scene. No, but this scene was really probably the hardest to watch. And it is the only time we saw Raquel. So Tom shows up. Are you okay? It's been rough. Cheers. Cheers to being in hell. Like, cheers? No, this is not a time or place for a cheers. Like, you guys are psychotic.
I know. I thought that was so weird too. And then Tom slips up and calls her Ariana. It's like, wait, what's happening? Like, it was very
not even, and that's not even the worst part because they're talking about like, I don't know, have you talked to your family? What do they think or whatever? And Sandoval's like, oh yeah, no, they love you. And Raquel, oh my God, I love you too. Oh my God. And then he goes, I said they love you, but I love you too. Like, let's just unpack this for a second because first of all, like that slip up was so funny. You cannot make this shit up. Like,
no.
And also they're saying I love you. Like, yeah. Whoa, that's a new revelation.
That was definitely a big moment. And it was sort of like, I don't think that they meant that to be part of the scene. But, it happened. And yeah, that was, I think, one of the most shocking takeaways of the episode was that they are saying, I love you. Like, this was not the first time they've said that. Now, I also want to know, okay, so we know that Raquel went to St. Louis in December. Allegedly, Tom's family did not want to meet her because they did not think it was appropriate that he was there with another woman when he was still with Ariana. Great. Agree. But now we're in March and he's saying, they love you. My family loves you. So when did he introduce her to his family? Like, that's what I want to know.
There are a lot of unanswered questions still that I hope we're going to get coming up.
Raquel, this entire scene, it just has like the weirdest attitude. It's like she thinks that this is a little thing. She's like, it's not ideal, like how it all went down. And, we always said that we wouldn't do this if we didn't think it was worth it. Like, she clearly wants to kiss him. And he's like, I can't kiss you with the cameras. And she's like, oh, yeah, me either. It's like super weird, right? I don't know. And then when she's in the confessional talking about it, like, she is just like giddy, she's acting like this is just like a new love, a new man in her life, and there's no complications to it. And I just thought it was all so strange.
Yeah, so let's talk about that confessional for a second because I don't remember the exact words she was saying, but I'm under the impression that she did not return to film a confessional after the news broke. She filmed that one scene with Tom and fled town. I'm not sure that she would go and get her hair and makeup done and go and glam and sit down and willingly let the producers ask her questions. Was this, in fact, after the news broke? Was it obvious that it was?
I don't know, because we've also seen that confessional look before in previous episodes with that blue cutout, off the shoulder dress. So this was not a new look. But if this did not happen after the news broke, then that means she was talking about having sex with Sandoval prior to the news breaking, in which case, like, that's a huge revelation because then production 100% knew. Somehow it wasn't leaked. Like, I have a hard time believing that, but there's at this point, like, there's just so many unanswered questions. And I really hope Andy asks about it, but I don't know that he's going to.
I feel like I need to go back and watch that confessional and, put my la hat on and figure it out. But, they talk about the black eye and she's like, oh my God, like, look at my black eye, like, bitch, like, you deserved it. But anyway, it's not that bad. They're acting like she's in pain. And I don't know. It doesn't look that bad to me. And, she says this line to him, she says, we wouldn't do it if we didn't think it was worth it. But at the same time, am I going to put my life on the line for somebody who would cheat on their significant other? Like, how stupid do you have to be, Raquel? You've been sleeping with this person for 7 months, knowing from the first second that you guys locked lips that he was cheating. And now you're finally being like, oh, am I going to, put my life on the line for this? Like, you've had 7+ months to think about this. So I think that's just a cop-out.
Yeah, it's a little bit too little too late. And I don't know. It's just like the whole time she's just kind of suppressing laughter, and it's almost like she's acting like, oops, like, we shouldn't have done that. Like, we shouldn't have, gone out and spent so much money on our bar tab last night. But it's like, girl, do you not understand? Like, you just destroyed someone's life, someone who you pretended to care about deeply. It's very strange. And then we, of course, get the card on saying that, after that scene, Raquel turned off her phone and was not heard from for weeks.
Yeah, good riddance. So then we get Katie confronting Schwartz as she should. He comes and drops the dogs off, and basically he's lying from the second he walks in that apartment, and she is calling him out on it. If anybody knows that Schwartz is lying, it's Katie. First he says, I found it a month ago, and then she brings up the BravoCon line, and he backtracks, and it's like, Katie, you caught him.
Yeah, Katie knows how to get it out of him, and it's by pressing him. Like, because Schwartz and Sandoval, I think their first instinct is to lie. And Katie is, she's dealt with that enough throughout the years, so she knows that the first answer probably is not the truth. And so, he finally admits, like, well, I don't know, was it like September or something? Like, he's pretending like he doesn't know, he's acting dumb. He keeps saying, like, Sandoval was telling him that, like, he was handling it with Ariana and, like, he was communicating with her. But, like, I think it was very obvious that he wasn't. And Katie tells him, like, you're going to lose a lot more than just friends with this. Like, your business is tied to this man, and it's not looking good, bro.
After Schwartz's apartment, we get the scene that we've all been waiting for from the trailer, and it is the return of Kristen Doty. And what we didn't know was that she came to Ariana's house to do witchcraft.
So I loved this scene so much because it was truly like two scorned women coming together to bond over one scumbag ex. And, they called him our ex-boyfriend. And you saw Ariana, like, smile for the first time, I think, in the episode. And it felt good. It felt good that she had, such good friends around her. And it was just, like, interesting to see their journey because, of course, when they met, Sandoval was leaving Kristen for Ariana. So he basically did the same thing, but to Kristen. And Kristen has shown so much growth because she completely let go of that grudge. Her and Ariana are truly friends now. And she's like, pish posh on me. Like, this is not about me. Like, that was a completely different situation. You guys have built a life together and you did not deserve this. And so then they go outside and write some affirmations and manifest some shit.
I loved it. And that was really juxtaposed to Sandoval showing up at Villa Rosa and, channeling his inner soap opera star, because we get probably the most dramatic scene with Sandoval yet. And he is crying at the window, like, so dramatically, like, his life is falling apart. And, like, Sandoval, couldn't you have shown that remorse to Ariana maybe and not Lisa Vanderpump?
Yeah, I mean, he's on this apology tour. Lisa's his next stop. And honestly, I gotta say, I think she went easy on him. I feel like she could have been a lot harder on him. And, she does tell him like, you're not a bad person. You've just done a bad thing. And I'm like, that's questionable because, doing something one time, like that's a mistake, but doing it again and again, which, he was doing with Raquel, he admits later on that or maybe it was before this, I can't remember. He admitted that it wasn't the only time he had cheated on Ariana. So it's like, if there's a pattern, I'm going to start to believe that pattern.
And I also think somebody who let somebody else off a little too easy was Ariana with Schwartz when he showed up at girls' night to talk to Ariana because, they were really good friends. Ariana was one of his groomsmen in him and Katie's wedding. So they deserve to have a conversation. But it does not really go that well. Schwartz just kind of plays the puppy dog act like he usually does and is like, Sandoval exploited my kindness. And, I was just trying to, I was trying to do the right thing, but basically didn't.
Yeah, I was trying, but at the same time didn't try, which I feel like that's very fitting for Schwartz. And he's, kind of trying to plead to Ariana saying like, we have our business to think about, like we have employees to think about, like we've become like a family. And she's like, well, Sandoval just fucked your family. Like Sandoval just tore your family apart. Don't put that on me. Like that's his fault. He should have thought of that before he went and did this. He is a public figure. How did he think this was going to turn out? And it's like, his businesses are successful because he is a public figure, because both of you guys are. And so he has to think about that shit before he does anything. And he didn't. And that's on him.
100%. And so we end the episode on this really emotional scene with Scheana and Sandoval. Scheana and Sandoval, of course, are OGs and have been friends for years. And Scheana is Ariana's best friend. So, of course, they, have to kind of talk about it. And he once again tells Scheana that he was going to break up with her. And we get the iconic moment where Sheena's like, but you fucked your best friend instead. Like nothing that Sandoval says is going to excuse his behavior. And Scheana is not letting him get away with it.
No, I really felt bad for Scheana in this situation because I think she truly does care for both of them. And, this was a friendship that she valued. And she's like, we are not friends anymore. Like, I cannot be friends with this. She does ask him if this was the only time that he had cheated on her. And he admits that there was one other time. And it's like, okay, well, rule of three. If you admit there's one other time, there's probably three other times. And, he just keeps saying like, we haven't been good for a long time. And it's like, dude, that is not an excuse. If you haven't been good, then break up. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's going to suck. You know what's going to suck worse? Her finding out like this, her being humiliated and your entire lives being blown up. Like, this whole time he's just making these excuses.
And all I have to say is justice for Miami girl. I mean, that is the mystery that we have been trying to unlock for years and years. And finally, she gets the recognition that she deserves.
You're so right. That girl has been vindicated. I think we all knew it all along, but like now it is confirmed. And it just goes to show like Tom Sandoval, great liar. That scene where Kristen was describing like when she finally kind of let him go and let Ariana have Tom, she was like, good luck wondering where he is at night. Enjoy sleeping in a bed next to the best liar that I've ever known. And that's him in a nutshell.
It is so Tom. I mean, so after this episode, pretty much the entire cast is in shambles. We leave on a very rough note. But, we're going to see them a few weeks later at the reunion. Obviously, Ariana is looking better than ever, rocking her revenge dress. I cannot wait for this 3-part reunion and the extended footage that we're getting on Peacock.
Oh, Peacock's gonna feed us well. Yeah, so excited. Can't wait to tune in. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our takes or any Bravo breaking news.
We will be here every week to cover it all.
Bye.